just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you want to be. Bring your deepest hopes and all your wildest dreams. You are welcome, holy welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you want to be. Bring your deepest hopes and all your wildest dreams. You are welcome, holy welcome, holy welcome. There's something in the air, the dream of life in love, with minds that rest in prayer, sparking joy we're in awe. No matter where your path has been or time will somehow flies, like souls will come home again, true friendship ever thrives. Is this where the magic happens? Can you feel the hearts revealed right now in you and me? The secret is wherever we are. There's something in a smile that can turn a day around. Moments so worthwhile when we find common ground. No matter what the day might bring, right here we can align, knowing that we will be seen as perfect, whole, divine. This is where the magic happens. Let's feel all the hearts, close to me and me to you. The secret is wherever we are. So meet me where the magic happens, healing all the hearts, ignited now in you and me. The secret is wherever, the secret is whenever, the secret is together we are.
Welcome, friends. How did you like that music in the beginning? That's all kinds of music for waking up, isn't it? Okay, so our purpose is to arise. And what that means for us is awareness, radical responsibility, inside-out living, spirit is all there is, and everyone is evolving. CSL St. George is a community-based community focus center, actively living, sharing, and nurturing its members and friends so that all may live their best lives. That's really all we want. CSL is an open and inclusive, evolving spiritual community that supports its purpose and vision through things that we do, selected wisdom celebrations, empowering transformative education, youth and young adult programs, dynamic music ministry, community inreach, and community outreach. Okay, today's service team. All right, we have Bill in the background. He's always really handy on the computer, and I appreciate him. And he's a science practitioner. In fact, all three practitioners are here today. I am, this is Star Steph, and I'm also a practitioner. And Alan is our musical director. He is awesome in everything that he does. And Sue will be giving our reading and our invocation. And of course, our talk is by Rev Joe Kovach. All right, everyone, here we go. Alan, take it away.
Here we are.
Wonderful music.
Thank you, Stephanie. I practice too. We're going to practice slow down here, get still for a little while, and sing a Karen Drucker song. And then Sue will come in and offer our invocation. So sing along, hum along, just sit back and relax. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is love, sweet love, sweet love.
Thank you. Join together in affirmative prayer, knowing that we are one. I speak in the I am. I recognize that spirit, that presence that is with me where I am. It is with you wherever you are. And that makes us one, brings us together as one family, one in love, one in peace. I know that spirit resides with me to guide and direct me, to help me to feel the promptings of spirit. And I know that attending a service such as this is a wonderful place to gather with like-minded people and to feel the spirit of spiritual things, of likeness, of oneness. I am grateful for this philosophy, for the philosophy of oneness and love and knowing who we are and whose we are. And I am grateful that we can participate today in freedom, in the ability to spread our word throughout the world through the internet. And I'm grateful for those wonderful times that we meet together and enjoy the oneness that we enjoy together at CSL St. George. I bless this meeting. I bless all that participate. I bless those who listen, knowing we are lifted, we are blessed. I'm grateful for this. I release my word to the law, knowing it is working for the best and highest good of all involved. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is. So it is. Thank you, Sue. We'll see you in a minute. In the stillness of this moment, I feel love. I feel love. In the stillness of this moment, I feel love. I feel love. And I rest and trust and breathe. I know that in the stillness of this moment, I feel love. In the stillness of this moment, I am peace. I am peace. In the stillness of this moment, I am peace. I am peace. And I trust and peace and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, I am peace. I am love. I am peace. I am love. I am. Now we'll bring Sue back, and she's going to offer our reading today.
Hello there.
Hello.
I'm happy to be joining you today to discuss the November CSL theme, Loving the Unlikable. And today's subject is opinion, fact, or truth. The author Adam Grant wrote, "Intelligence is traditionally viewed as the ability to think and learn. Yet in a turbulent world, there's another set of cognitive skills that might matter more. The ability to rethink and unlearn." Ernest Holmes reminds us to keep our minds open at the top for a new influx of wisdom. Are we able to receive new information that proves something is false that we previously held true and accept it without fear of being wrong? Can we be uncertain and curious and embrace new perspectives and evolving truths? Can we rethink and unlearn? Can we be open at the top with our own beliefs? I recently heard a discussion between popular author Richard Rohr and Oprah, where Rohr said that the opposite of faith is not doubt, it is certitude. I think he's saying, be careful of what you are absolutely, resolutely certain about, because you may be so cemented into that thought that you would not be able to be open to new information. Albert Einstein, a pretty smart fellow, said, the mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. If during this month's discussions you are reminded of things you consider unlikable, it might be time to open to a new idea, to be open at the top. And so it is. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Sue. I'll think about that. This is Sue Riley's song. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker that thinks the thought I've got the power to change my life. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker that thinks the thought I've got the power to change my life. All right now. If you ask me who I am wisdom, I am life. I am truth, God. I cannot be denied. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker that thinks the thought I've got the power to change my life. If you ask me what I am beauty, I am joy. I am more than meets the eye. I cannot be denied. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am a thinker that thinks the thought I have the power to change my life. I can choose to be a light and brighten someone's sweetest night. I'm so much more than meets the eye. I cannot be denied. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker that thinks the thought I have the power to change my life. I have the power to change my life. I have the power to change my life.
That's wonderful. Yes, you do have the power.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. All right, everyone. We are welcoming Reverend Joe Kovach, our wonderful Reverend, who is going to enlighten us with how to deal with life.
You're already enlightened. I'm just reminding you, that's all.
Yeah, helping me remember. That's beautiful.
It's a journey of remembering. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Good morning, Stephanie.
All right.
Good morning, Ellen. Thank you for the wonderful music. We are the thinkers that think the thought. You know, and today's, well, first of all, good morning. And it's, I don't know about you, where you're at, but it's much, much cooler. Autumn has taken its cold grip here in Las Vegas, and I know in St. George as well. Things change. That's all about life, is it not? And I'm still reeling for such an amazing celebration last Sunday. Met some new people, and we just had a wonderful time. So just knowing that we're going to be doing that every week soon with your help. But I want to go back to that song. I am the thinker that thinks the thought. And it's kind of reminds me about the message of today, which is, we hear certain things a lot in talks in this faith. And yet, if we don't feel like we're in control of our lives as much as we could, then we're not practicing what we can do. So I'm just going to say that today's talk may sound, we're going to break it down in really small bites. It may sound like, oh, I've heard this before, but trust me, by the end of it, I want you to ask yourself, am I really doing it? Right? And just hang in there for the ride. So we're going to talk about today, something that influences every conversation we have and every choice we make, every belief that we hold. And that is the way we look at life. Is it opinion? Is it fact? Or is it truth? And behind these three simple words is, again, a deep spiritual practice, because what we're doing is learning to recognize the voice that we're listening to. Now, Stephanie in the beginning talked about our purpose, arise. The first thing is awareness. Are we noticing what we notice? That is key. So is the voice that I'm hearing has to do with my preferences? Or is the voice that I'm using dealing with the material world, form? Or is the voice of the infinite, or what we call truth? And in Ernest Holmes in Science of Mind says the truth with a capital T is changeless, even when conditions change. So today we're going to explore how to live from that deep clarity of which voice we're using. Again, the voice of opinion, the voice of fact, the voice of truth, right? So while we say we have one mind in Science of Mind, but spiritually speaking, we have three voices, right? And success, living a spiritual life, lies in the practice of knowing which voice we're using. So let's just simply break it down. We're going to start with the voice of opinion, right? When I hear the voice of opinion, I hear things like, I like this, I don't like this. People should do this. He or she should behave this way. I prefer chocolate over vanilla, right? So our voice is shaped by our preferences. Our voice is shaped by often our opinion. The voice is shaped with emotion, is shaped by our upbringing, our culture, our personality, the stories we tell ourselves, our experience. Okay. Now, so I don't like rainy days. Okay. That would be an opinion, right? My boss shouldn't have spoken to me that way. Again, opinion. Now, all these opinions that we have, pause, we're not making them or you wrong. Okay. Opinions are valid as an experience, but they are not what we would call universal. They're not something that everybody experiences, right? They're opinions, not reality. Remember, we each are, I don't want to say gifted with, but we are each a center point of the mind of spirit. We each have a unique view through our living, through our perspective. So it's not wrong, but we also have to understand the view that we're looking through and the voice that we're using. So we see the world as we have conditioned ourselves to see it. That's what the Science of Mind says. So our opinions, in essence, are simply reflections of the conditioning that we've experienced, not truth. Okay, pause, take that in. We're going to switch now to the voice of fact. Now, facts, I know what a fact is. A fact is neutral, right? And it's observable, it's measurable, it's verifiable, right? So if I said it's now currently, 55 degrees outside, that would be a fact. Or I would say our service starts at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That would be a fact. If I looked in my bank account and I said, my bank account has X amount of money, that's a fact. Facts belong to the physical world, the world of time, of matter, science, measurements, right? But do we also consider facts can change? For example, there was once a belief that the earth was the center of the universe. We also believe that one time the earth was flat. We used to believe that the atom was invisible, but now we know it's not. So facts tend to evolve, not tend to, evolve as human consciousness or human understanding evolves. Facts are never the problem. It's the stories that we attach to facts that tends to create issues and suffering. All right. And in our teaching, we would say, well, we don't deny the world of facts, okay, because they're as real as they are to us. Ernest Holmes would say, you know, we don't, if an arm is broken, we don't just pray on it and know that technically we come from a universal spirit that is perfect, whole, and complete. We tend to that experience in this version of our reality. Okay. What we do, though, is, or we don't do, is we don't give our experiences power over us. What we know is, just like I mentioned, how the weather's changing, life will change. So facts describe conditions and nothing more. And now we move to the voice of truth. Truth is universal, meaning it is the same for everybody, everywhere. There is no time, there is no space. It's true. We call it, it's spiritual, and most of all, it is unchanging. It is the unchanging reality of who we are, right? You are divine. Our source is our supply, that source, God. Love is all there is. These are spiritual truths. These are not opinions. These are not facts that come and go and change. These are truth. And the interesting thing about truth when you hear it is it doesn't shout. It isn't loud. It doesn't argue because it doesn't need to argue. Truth simply is. Ernest Holmes would say the great reality with a capital R is the truth about you. And that truth is unchanged by fact or opinion. So the important thing here again is to understand which voice is talking. And when we understand which voice is talking, we gain spiritual mastery. Now, sometimes and often we get confused, right? Most conflict, whether it's internal or external, we come from mixing up like whether the voices that we hear. We confuse sometimes opinion with fact and fact with truth. And so I want to break these down. So confusion comes first when we treat opinion as fact. So that, again, an example of that. Someone calls you and says something and you feel offended and you hang up later. You're like, I know exactly why they said that. But do we really? I know why they didn't call me back. Okay. So when we respond emotionally to something, what we're doing is really we're creating a story. Now, the fact is they called, someone called, or they didn't call. Those are the facts. But then we have an emotional attachment to it and we create a story all from past events, our history. And then we tend to argue and defend a position because we want to feel right. It's kind of like arguing over what the best movie is, or your football team's better than another football team. Okay, these are opinions. Okay, opinions are thoughts. They are not truth. So we also get confused when we treat facts as truth. Here's one, for example, when a doctor gives a diagnosis. Now, the diagnosis in that moment may be a fact, but is not spiritual truth. We are having the experience, for example, of COVID. I am having the experience of a sinus infection. But that if it was it's changeable. And I know this, and we know this because we can change our lives by changing the way we think, changing the way we feel, right? In one moment, I could say my bank account is low, right? And then I have this belief that I attach to it of fear that I'm always going to struggle. How will I? And we get all discombobulated, and we confuse temporary conditions with eternal truth. God or spirit is the source and supply of all, period. That's truth. Therefore, if I'm not experiencing that in my conditions, in my experience, I have the ability, you have the ability to adjust the way you look at that experience, and that experience must change. Right? Ernest Holmes would say, conditions are not the truth, they are effects. Change the cause, and the effect must change. What is the cause? The cause is our thinking, right? And truth is the only cause, right? So if truth is cause and the facts are the effects, then the effects must shift when the cause shifts. So if my thinking is, I can never attract my perfect mate, I'm unlovable, and I begin and I get some help and I get some prayer and I do some meditating, and I do my spiritual practices, and I begin to shift the way first I see myself, then my reality will change as I begin to see from truth from the inside out. Again, part of our purpose there, living inside out. But we tend to forget truth, and we live reactively through our personality, through opinions. When we remember when we remember truth, which another word that we use in the science of mind is principle, right? Principle is truth. Okay, then we align with something that is forever lasting. For example, we recognize that we could feel and live by joy anytime and every time, all day long, to infinity. But we mess that up. We do. We get deflected and we cause resistance in our lives. But that's part of the reason we came here, was to experience this gamut of life. You know, I was reading that it said about truth must be invited in. And I was going to use that in my talk. And I was like, it doesn't have to be invited in. Truth is always present. It's always, the light's always on, right? And it's not going to force itself, right? When you know you're right, you don't have to argue the point. We only argue because we turn into this opinionated defense. But truth knows who and what it is. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be invited. It's here right now. A couple months ago, I took you through a practice where I just said, think of your happy place and go within and feel that. Can you feel that? That's all it takes. We shift the source of our thoughts to truth, to love, to wholeness, to oneness, to divine health, and so on. And as long as we hold that long enough, we experience it, right? I had the experience of losing my job, and I thought my job was the only source of income. And at first I was fearful. I was upset. I thought it was horrible, right? And then I kind of broke it down into fact, because sometimes if we just take the emotion out of it, get down to it. All right, I don't have a job. The fact of the matter is I need a source of income. And then I turned to prayer, and I recognize there's infinite sources of income because it comes from an infinite source, which is Spirit, God itself. And then I opened myself to that, to saying my perfect job is waiting for me now. I affirmed that. And through that affirmation, I received another job. So it's important to remind ourselves that power, that presence is always listening. It is who we are. But confusion happens when we stop at the first two layers. Now, we're not saying, again, that opinions and facts are wrong in any way. They're just different voices, but the voice that we want to tune into most is the voice of truth. And that's when we get clear. All right. Now, there's another spiritual tool that can help us elevate elevate us understanding which voice we're using, right? To elevate the conversation that we're having so that it's always in truth, or at least more often in truth. And that is called discernment, right? What part of me is speaking? Right? So discernment is the spiritual practice of sorting out through the inner noise, the outer noise, which voice am I using, right? What I just spoke, is that my opinion because I'm reacting to through emotion, through a personal preference? Is that fact? Is it in a fact right now having something to do with the physical world? Or is it truth? Now, discernment is not judgment, because judgment says this is good, this is bad. Discernment is saying this is what it is, and then we can decide, is it for our best and highest in this moment? Now, some tools for discernment that we can use. Again, I told you it was going to kind of be broken down and almost educational. What we need to practice. And as I kept going through this, I'm like, I am not doing some of these things, and I am not using some of these tools. That's why I'm sharing them with you today. So going back into tools for discernment, we could simply ask different questions. And one of them would be, is this universally true? If it's not universally true, then it's an opinion. If it's true only in this moment, then I recognize it's a fact. If it's true in every situation, then I know it as truth with a capital T. Is this universally true? Now, an important one that you've heard before, a question that we can ask ourselves is, does this expand me or contract me? Do I feel expanded when I say this, or do I feel angst? Do I feel anxiety? Do I feel contracted? When we speak from truth, truth is always expansive. It's light. But when we're speaking from opinion, depending on how we're using our speech, and that does matter, context, right? It could feel either or expansive or contracting. So again, the idea is when our thoughts are in alignment with truth, we feel the freedom of it. And then the other thing that this is one I do often is I check for an emotional charge after I've said something, right? Especially when I'm upset and I could tell I'm reactive or I'm being defensive, right? You end up in this opinionated storm. And as I said earlier, truth doesn't have to shout. Truth whispers because truth knows who it is. And when I hear myself shouting, I realize I'm just trying to make a point that I believe is right in the moment, depending on the situation, for a person or for the moment. And the honest truth is I'm being reactive. And that I can feel the contracting nature of what I'm saying. Versus even if I took a deep breath first and said the same thing, it's going to come out and feel different. This is the idea of spiritual mastery, of asking ourselves these questions. Is this simply my opinion? Am I defending an opinion that really is right it may be right for me, but it may not be right for this situation or this other person? Is this a fact? And if it's a fact, I can deal with a fact, right? Or is this something that I'm sure of that is aligned with love, aligned with universal joy, right? This is listening to our thoughts. And folks, we are consciousness in form. That is who we are. So it's like the idea is to choose truth as a foundation to look at our lives through the lens of our lives. And you can interpret any situation through the lens of fear or the lens of principle, of truth. And what we know is life acts like a mirror. It will reflect back to us, the thinker, the thought that you are thinking, right? So I'm thinking thoughts of health and wholeness that is what will show up in my life. We call it law of attraction, and we think we know it, but if we did, we would pay more attention to what we're thinking and feeling. And likewise, if we tend to look through the eyes of truth, truth will be reflected back to us. Now, another practice that we can use in this spiritual mastery of recognizing our voice is also, and it may surprise you, but one of the most sacred spiritual acts is the willingness to be flexible, to change our minds. In science of mind, changing our minds is not seen as weakness. It's alignment with spirit evolving. Right? Being spiritually alive means being willing to update your preferences, your perceptions, your beliefs. If we are rigid, if we have a rigid mind, it won't grow. We need to have a flexible mind. And the example that came to me is I remember watching, and I don't remember which one of his, but Wayne Dyer's, one of his DVDs, and he used the example of a palm tree being flexible. And it's amazing. They can sustain super high winds because they're flexible. They bend with the incoming storm. They don't fight it. And in essence, that's what, that's the standpoint I try to use in my own life, to kind of like, okay, this is what's happening. Let me bend with it, go with it. And this is not to say to put up with things that are harmful to you, but with regards to seeing things from a different perspective. It's not always about being right. So why would we want to change our minds? Again, maybe I recognize there's opinion that has been updated and it no longer serves me. Or there's a behavior that I recognize in my life that no longer serves me. Or again, there's a belief and a story that I'm telling myself about myself or telling myself about the world that could use a little updating. It's just like software, right? When we upgrade our thinking, everything will start moving smoother at a higher level. So I may have a limiting opinion, right? I'm not good at technology. Okay, well, that's your opinion. We can, with a spiritual practice and something as simple as an affirmation, begin to open ourselves, be flexible to learning. It may be that our story that we're telling ourselves is it's hard. It's going to take a lot of time. And then we use other facts like it took so-and-so weeks to do just this. And it's all judgment. It's all opinion. Step aside from that. Step into truth. Right? So again, we might have a limiting idea. What's what we're looking for? Idea or interpretation. That's what I'm looking for of an actual fact. I mentioned before the job. I lost my job. Have you ever had a relationship end? Right? Those are tough. And at first, I don't know about you, I go within and I don't think very highly of myself. The voice that I use is ugly. But the truth of it is, once I get to it and I shift out of that, I'm allowed to be flexible. I'm not making myself wrong. We're not making ourselves wrong. That just stifles the process. Right? Someone once told me that I used to believe that life was happening to me. Now I believe it is happening through me. And that's actually in alignment with one of the 4 stages of consciousness. I've talked about in past talks, but when we're responsive or reacting to life, okay, and especially through opinion, when life seems to be doing this to us, we feel powerless. We don't feel free. We don't feel even like we may have a voice that matters. But if we allow ourselves to shift, to allow ourselves to come from a place of truth that this is happening. And now what is true for me? The truth for me is that I am love in action, even though I may not feel it in this moment, that I am divine, that there is one mind, one power, one presence that is the source of all. And I am of that. Therefore, I am access to this power, this presence, this love, this divine energy in this moment. And I know that the more I change my thoughts to align with all that feels good, then my life must change. And we begin to shift. We literally talk ourselves using the voice of truth into the situations and experience we want to have. Now, there's a great, wise spiritual teacher out there. Her name is Byron Katie. And she says, it's funny, and at the same time, I'm going to break it down. Her quote is, "When I argue with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time." Okay. And so this idea, it's pretty, we can break it down in the sense of arguing with reality, right, is an unwinnable, there we go, unwinnable battle. So again, the quote, "When I argue with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time." In other words, if we fight against what is, we just get stuck there for a while. And our language will, if what is something unwanted, then what is our voice? How does our voice evolve? It won't evolve past until we shift past what is wanted to understanding, now asking the question, what is unwanted, to what is wanted. Now, accepting what is doesn't mean that we agree with what is happening in our lives. It simply is we're acknowledging the situation as it is. Again, it may be a fact. Okay. But we also can step forward on a spiritual path and recognize things change. As we change our focus, as we change our thoughts, we change our reality. So if you're in a conversation and someone disagrees with you, your first thought might be, well, they're wrong, right? But I'm going to ask you to learn to pause. To simply ask, is that a fact? No, it's their opinion, maybe. Is that truth? Well, if it's their opinion, it's not truth. So discernment, the power of discernment, is a spiritual tool that we all can use, and we can use it with grace. We can simply get to the point, and I'm working on it. I'm not going to paint myself as a masterpiece. I'm still working on it. And one of the things I'm able to do now is practice hearing the voice. I could feel my body tense sometimes when I'm resisting or wanting to be right in the moment. Instead of just allowing someone to have their say, just like I would want someone to allow it to listen to me. And then I've learned to be open and to listen to a greater degree. And I won't say a lot, I don't know what percentage, but there are times when I realize we're saying the same thing. We're arguing for the same point, just from a different perspective. And again, this aids you in spiritual maturity, coming from the place of truth more often. So our spiritual path invites us to not abandon facts or abandon opinions, but to anchor ourselves in divine truth so deeply that nothing external, right? Nothing outside ourselves can shake the truth of knowing who and what we are. Now, I know I told you today's talk was going to be sounds basic. I'm going to ask you to listen to it again if you're watching, because there's a lot in it, believe it or not. And I'm just going to ask you to take one part of it, work on a voice, work on the awareness of recognizing a voice, and then changing it to, well, if it's truth, wonderful. If you're starting to recognize truth, then everything else will shift. I tend to kind of recognize my opinions first, more than truth, and then I go back and I work my way to spiritual truth. But use that as some home practice. Now, in our spiritual practice, we have affirmations. And this week's affirmation is, opinions may shift, facts may change, but truth is the foundation of my life. I live from spiritual truth. All right. So, as we like to do, I'm going to close with prayer. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to speak in the first person because there is only one life being lived. Yet I recognize that one power, one presence, one life, as I can only recognize it through my eyes as an individualized expression of the one. And in that, I honor everyone else, every other individual perspective. And I'm grateful for the diversity of thought for thy diversity of opinions. It's nice that it's not all the same. I welcome that as I know my truth about spirit, about wholeness, about love. All comes from one great source. And I hear myself say great. That means there's something to compare it to, but there's nothing to compare it to. It is all. It is all that it is. Everything I recognize, all with my senses, everything I know, every thought is of spirit. And so, therefore, I listen to and understand today's talk. I hear my own voice. I hear others' voice, and I choose to come from a place of truth. People can have their opinions. There are facts in the world. And what I know is as I shift my thoughts, my own personal thoughts, to experiencing the desires, the dreams, the fulfillment that I seek to have, and focus on that from a place of truth, then that is what my reality shows up as. I am grateful for, again, the diversity that I live within on this planet. I bless this planet and know that it too is of source. And everything off of this planet, outside our awareness, it's all from love. It's all from unconditional love. I'm so grateful for this community. I'm so grateful for the steps that I have taken this week in my mastering myself, in remembering the truth of who I am and what I am. And I'm just so grateful to serve as just by being me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. I'm all alone.
No, you're not. You're never alone.
See, when I said there's only one, they didn't mean just me, all alone.
I love it. I think that it's great that you reiterated a lot of the things that just kind of guide us to know that we have the power to navigate life. You know, a captain doesn't just do truth. A captain navigates.
Yeah.
You know, and
everything is supposed to, I mean, if it's here, it's meant to be here. And, you know, again, I was going through the week and there were so many simple things that I know about, right? But I'm not doing it. I mean, and it's like, I find myself reacting and then I'm like, what are you doing? And it's all about practice, because the more we do it, the more we embody it, eventually that's just everything.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong. We're just course correcting.
There we go.
All right. See you at Zoom afterwards.
Absolutely.
I hope
we welcome everybody to have a conversation.
Yeah. All right. We got some announcements here, everyone. We are an abundant prosperity group, and we give with Zelle or PayPal or by mail. It's your choice, or in person, whatever you'd like to do. We have avenues that you can extend yourself in that way. And there's an offering that you can say. I'm going to say it right now. This doesn't necessarily go only with supplying funds or whatever that. It goes with your service and your time and your talents, all of it. I am overflowing with love and abundance. I give from the source of my being, which is rich and unlimited. With joy and excitement, I share from this overflow. In return, the universe gives back to me in infinite ways, channels, and means, and so it is. And like I said, we're going to have a Zoom conversation today at noon, and please bring your questions. You can write Reverend Joe a question right here, and he'll answer it on the Zoom call. Come and join us. Our next in-person service is November 23rd. Grateful for Kith and Kiln. I wonder what Kith is. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look that one up. But that's with Reverend Rachel, and looking forward to that. Prayer requests, star practitioners are available for a moment of prayer online. Email practitioners for prayer. You can email everyone but me because I can't reach it. So you can reach me anytime at service, or just grab my card and my email's on the back of it. Okay, we have volunteer opportunities: soundboard tech, video streaming tech, greeters, kitchen support. Your hands and your heart and your home, they're all welcome here. Our gifts make a difference, so step into service and help our community thrive. We have a book club at the in-person services, and there's you can donate a relevant book that you think would help us. Browse our collection of spiritually inspiring and uplifting goods. It's located in the back of person service, and thank you for supporting our community. Oh, do you speak woo-woo? Our lovely Sue Fulmer has written a book about this, and it's a beautiful, we started out last month, and it was beautiful. So on the third Sunday of each month, she's going to guide us in a discussion of all kinds of things that just light up our lives sometimes, and we don't know if it's woo-woo or is it real. Come and see. Our upcoming services, November 23rd is Grateful for Kith and Kin with Reverend Rachel. And November 30th, our practitioners are at it again, and we'll be doing a live togetherness session, and hope you all can join us then too. Okay, we're going to gather everybody together here. A couple more. There we come.
There we go.
All right. Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in all that I do.
I am it. I embrace it, and I share it.
Just the way that it is, and just the way that it is becoming. Thank you.
Thank you, Life.
Life. Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Have a blessed week.